work session with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our agenda, we have one item scheduled, and then I had an extra one, email from Krista, Representative Knudsen, that we can discuss when we're done with the financial policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I was explaining before, our meeting today was going to be an update from ICS on the project and then a tour of the law enforcement facilities. And we didn't meet a mark where we wanted something done before you went on a tour, so we're going to push that to June. So this review of financial policies is still a work in progress, but I wanted to run through a couple of things to get some direction from you before we bring any of these back for action. The last time we had this conversation was October of 2024, and then this pile of policies has just been on the back burner, waiting for us to catch up on some other items. So what I've got in here is a draft of the procurement policy, some work that Denise had done prior to her leaving, a copy of Cass County's policy, a draft of our GASB 54 fund balance policy from 2019, and then another example from Washington County, our 2017 investment policy, and a copy from Itasca County, just for examples. The updates in the procurement policy, just to summarize, and I just added this yesterday to make it kind of easier. We updated the thresholds pursuant to Minnesota statute. It used to be that anything over $100,000 required competitive bidding, and then 8-9 years ago, they changed the requirement to 175. So part of this is just updating statutory references. The following piece of this, and this is a conversation that we had before, and I wanted to know if you had additional thoughts on this, updating department manager authority for budgeted expenditures up to $10,000 and up to $25,000 for solid waste and highway. $25,000 correlates with under $25,000 can be directly negotiated. $25,000 to $175,000 requires informal bid or get a collection of quotes, and anything over $175,000 requires a competitive bid process. So that $25,000 for the major departments, again, the example, a year and a half ago, we needed to replace a garage door at the highway department. It was $14,000. That's what they cost. In those two areas where they have significant equipment costs, that's why I'm recommending that we put that to $25,000 for them to allow them, and they both have equipment and operating budgets, so when things like that happen, they can fix them without having to wait for board approval. And the $10,000 is really, there's a lot of times when things come before the board that really wouldn't need to come before the board, and whether that's $5,000 or $10,000 for all other budgeted expenditures, right? So that means that a department would have operating funds, an account that's intended to cover those costs. But anything that's not budgeted, unexpected, I would honestly, I forgot to put maintenance in here at the $25,000 level too, because there are things that sometimes happen there that we would have to make that determination.
Jeff, excuse me, I have a question for the board. Do you want to have expenditures that we're doing, what we're doing right now, to continue to come to the board, or if Jeff determines they don't need to, they shouldn't bother? Thoughts?
Yeah, it depends on, like the example of a garage door. Gotta have a garage door, and
See in January.
Yeah, and some, and some of these things just seem like it's housekeeping type stuff that we should just go, it could be on the consent agenda in one respect.
That's what I was gonna say.
I could certainly, I would like to leave it at 25 for the major components because of they have the budget for that and they have the operating, and we could set it at $5,000 for everybody else, which we have, at least it would be consistent, because what we've seen in the past year is that different department managers are working off of different versions of this policy.
Jeff, can you think of something that would be over 5 and under 10?
A new plotter for environmental services. That big printer,
Yep.
something like
Yeah, I
that.
was thinking on the lines of printers too, okay.
Yep.
So an example is, all of a sudden, after next week's meeting on Wednesday, it dies. They can't go 2 weeks without replacing it.
Yeah, that's not likely to happen. And they actually could go 2 weeks without replacing it. Yeah, they have a couple of print shops in town where if they needed to send a print job and get something done, they could send it to a couple of print shops in town and get something done. But I don't think setting that at $5,000 or $10,000 for all other departments would make that much of a difference from an operating standpoint. It would be just, Corey's been bringing items in that are, $1,200. Well, they're budgeted items and they don't need to come before the board for that. And that, the other thing this doesn't just, this also addresses contracts. I think the language within the contracts basically says department managers have the authority to continue a contract if the only thing that's changing is the extension of the term of the contract. All new contracts, no matter what level, come to the board, and then contracts over a certain amount would also require board action. Without reading through all of the items, this is just generally the things that are changing or have changed in the statute. We also added language regarding leases, which is a statutory thing. I think that the Cass County, I think the one that Denise did is very correct and too much. It's twice as long as the one that Cass County has. Cass County gets away with that by making reference to statutes instead of printing the statutory language within the text of the body, right? So that's the difference between the two of them. The Cass County one includes the credit card policy within the procurement policy. Ours is separate. Could go either way on that. That doesn't change anything. The amounts would be that you've set for that are the same. And then we've talked about the idea of adding procurement cards rather than individual credit cards, which means we would have a credit limit. And when we do this, we would have you set the limit on that. We'd have a credit limit with the bank so that, we had a situation a couple months ago where Human Services needed to buy a plane ticket to get somebody to a place where they were gonna get a youth to a place where they were gonna get the care they needed, right? And their credit card was above its limit. So they called me to use my credit card. Well, if we had a pool of, the procurement was this amount of credit for the county, and these 18, 20 cards that we have, all are borrowing from that pool, they're still gonna get their same statements, individual statements based on the card, based on who that's assigned to, but they're not drawing against their own credit limit, they're drawing against a higher credit limit for the county. Same situation could happen if all of you decided that you wanted to go to an event in St. Paul and I booked all of the rooms and they charged it all at once, that credit card would be denied because it's set for a $3,000 or $5,000 limit. And a week's stay for 6 people in St. Paul is more than $5,000. So that was a recommendation from CLA, which we're looking into. The bank is saying that they have the ability to do that, so it's just a matter of time. So this procurement, when it comes to you again, we'll add that. And then the only thing that Cass County doesn't specifically have is the department manager authority levels within that. So what I'm saying is if If the question is related to the authority level for department managers, that's the direction I'm looking for from you. These are the recommendations. And then I would present it in a shorter version like the Cass County one, but I would include the 3 bullets that they don't have in their policy. Do you like 5 as a general limit and 25 for the major funds?
I guess I'm okay with the 10,000 myself.
Has the 5,000 limit been cumbersome for anybody?
Most people have been operating on an old policy that's less than 5,000. So
Yeah.
5,000 would, if it were administered consistently, it would not be cumbersome.
What was it, 2,500 was, I heard a month ago, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we have versions that still say 250. But I think most people are operating on 2,500. And so if we raised it to 5,000, I think it would alleviate most of the operating issues that we have. And that, just to be consistent so everybody knows what it is, would be helpful. And to have an updated policy that references current statute is necessary.
I like that 5,000 level. Because whenever, I see one of those on the budget, it triggers me to go and check the budget. I don't do that on a recurring basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so when something like that comes up, I'll go and see, okay, let's see how much outer spending is going in that particular line item, which is a duty of the county commissioners.
And are you able to find that information in the financial reports when you look for it?
Right on
Okay.
my auditor's site.
Okay.
Yep.
That was a plug for the fact that the financial statements have been getting done on time, and that's really important for all of you and for the public to know those financial statements are out there available. So 5,000, and we'll wait to deal with the procurement issue, which will come to the board separately before we do it. So we'll have to make the change to having a procurement card system, and then we'll address the procurement policy as a whole with the 5,000 level and these recommended changes.
Sounds good to me.
And you can scroll through and see that all of this stuff in the Cass County one is eliminated by making reference to the statute. So they don't print this whole page worth of documentation in there. And again, we have much of the statute, they reference it, and we spelled it out in here. And I don't think that's helpful. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the Cass one, but it's cleaner, and if it's cleaner and more readable, I think it's more usable for everyone as well. See, this is long. Where theirs is, I think, 7 pages, and still hits all of the required pieces. This was last updated in 2025. It's almost too easy to steal stuff from Josh because I know that he does a good job with it over there.
Where was I'm looking for under grants, it talked about a grant proposal not causing another FTE. Do you remember what page that's on?
I do remember that it's in here, and I will make sure that that stays in, but I believe that's also in the Cass one. That is a good comment, because I know you have all added that piece. Grants,
Yeah, I can't find it now, but I know it's in here because I read it.
not add to FTE.
Okay, yeah, wherever it's at.
I remember exactly the paragraph, and I remember that it was in here.
Yeah.
And if it's not in
Okay.
the CAS one, I'll include it in the CAS one,
Okay,
or
thank you.
in the modified one.
Here we go, it's on page 9. Top of the page. Oh, no, if you go to page 9 up above, 9 out of
Oh, okay.
56. There you go, right there.
Yep. The fund balance policy, the one thing that we need to do, and we'll have this conversation, I think, as part of our exit interview or after we get the 2024 audit complete, is we need to review the county's designation of funds, because there are times when county staff believe that we have adequate fund balance based on our current policy, and there's times when the auditor says that we don't because we have funds designated certain ways. What are the terms again?
Restricted and committed?
Restricted and committed. And we count them as different ways towards a restricted, I think restricted and committed, neither of them count towards our fund balance per our policy. And I think that our operating understanding of that and what we've discussed with you is that the committed funds could be counted as part of our fund balance to meet the levels for the fund balance policy. And we just need to clean that up a little bit. So that's just a little bit of language. It's a little bit of, we might have to do some housekeeping regarding having the board make change designations relative to some of our funds. So I would just go through this. So the grant funds that we got, or the bond funds for the construction project would be designated or restricted? Those are restricted.
They should be restricted.
Those are restricted. So we took out that money specifically for their project, so it doesn't count as fund balance, even though it shows on our cash reports. The designated funds would be, think of one?
Oh, there's a list.
Yeah. Is it in the email from Karen?
I don't know if it lists it out specifically.
Anyway, the point is that we need to understand, if I tell you designated and restricted, or committed and restricted, there's a lot of interpretation on that. So we need to actually define those things and make sure that our accounts are labeled correctly, so that when we're looking at our fund balance policy, we're counting the right number of things. Because we found a couple of times that they'll say we're not meeting our fund balance policy, when internally we've always believed that we are good order relative to that fund balance policy. So just clean it up. And then I prefer, again, Washington County's format, just mostly because I didn't see Cass County's on this one. And it just, it's just cleaner. And really, content is no different. And it's also more consistent with the Cass County format earlier. So we'll find a single format that works for these financial policies, so that the layout is the same, the font is the same, they're easier for you to read, and be easy enough for you to recognize them as Hubbard County policies. And then the investment policy, if there aren't any questions about that, is, I believe our investment policy is in line, and I threw Itasca County's investment policy in just to show that they're almost verbatim. This is just a template that was provided by one of the, like McCaffo, or one of the professional organizations a number of years ago that people are working off of. So the only thing I would do with this is whatever we use for a font and a template and a layout for the other financial policies, we'd make sure, see, these have underlines under the sections, and the other one didn't have underlines, it just had bold headings. We'd want to be consistent. Just, but yeah, the underline obviously came from a template from one of the professional organizations, since they look exactly the same. But otherwise, I believe that this one is accurate. Statutorily, the auditor treasurer has a responsibility and authority to manage the investments and then report back to you on a quarterly basis, so. That is really all I had relative to these. These are the major ones. We have a couple others on the list. The capital asset policy just takes a little more time. The credit card policy, I said when we get to the procurement, we'll bring that together to establish the procurement card system in lieu of the credit card system. And then when that's done, we'll incorporate that into the procurement policy. Policies are so much fun. But when we get this done, we'll be in better shape.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for the cleanup on that stuff. Good to look at it now and again.
Yeah.
Just asked Marie last week, do we have time to get back to this? And I said, we'll do this in a couple of weeks. And then I looked at the schedule and I said, oh, we gotta do it now, because we
So
didn't.
you're gonna meld the, kind of what Cass.
We're gonna-
Goes down similar to Cass's, so.
Yep, we're gonna,
easier to go through.
I like the readability of
Yeah.
both the Washington and the Cass County one, so but they're not the same format, they're not the same font. We'll pick one that's easier to read, and then use that when we bring all the rest of the policies forward.
Sounds good. Do you have any other questions?
As you were scrolling through these really fast, like, one line in authorized areas to make investments in, and I don't know what county that was, at Tasca, but it said certain mutual funds. I don't know what they mean by that.
By statute, it's risk. It's risk assessment for funds. That's all the neutral means.
It sounds like it's an allowable investment.
It probably is
Yeah.
for certain ones, is it not? I mean, you could buy like a muni bond fund, I would
Yes.
think.
Yep.
If you wanted to.
Commercial paper, for
Depends
the
on your
Magic
risk.
Fund, they invested a lot in commercial.
We can't invest in anything that doesn't have backing, right? So, all of these items are the same in both. The term, neutral does not mean anything other than risk averse, not risky. But these are the savings, commercial, trust, credit union. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we should be, we specified Magic Fund specifically, but that's just a mutual fund.
I'm just wondering if something like an index fund, which, there's risk in that, but at the same time, it's investing in the economy of the country, and we're subject to that risk. It's operating as a county anyway.
We are subject to that. We really can't invest in something that you could lose money on. But, changes in the economy, changes in the banking and the interest rates. When I got here, we were making $175,000 a year in interest, and now we're over 1.6-ish, 1.5?
Yeah.
1.2, somewhere in there, yeah.
somewhere in that number. A lot of that is just because the interest rates have rebounded, but it's also because we're managing things in a much different way. We were making 0.75% interest coming out of COVID, and we were doing well for getting that at that point in time, so. And now we've got it laddered and indexed over a 5 to 6 year period.
I kind of get that too, because it's not our money. It's the taxpayer money, and every taxpayer is gonna have a different tolerance of risk, so,
Yep.
you know, when it's not our money, we need to, I can see why government says it has to be backed. One mistake would be catastrophic,
Could be,
yeah.
Of course, retirement funds will make investments like that.
Yeah, where you and I as individuals, difference, it's completely up to you
Oh,
as
yeah, for sure.
your tolerance. Anything else?
I just have a couple of announcements, but did you want to go into the second item now, or, okay? So, you all should have seen some notification about my evaluation. That'll be part of a closed session on the 19th. If you have questions about that process, contact Mary. Mary's coordinating that. So if you have issues or questions about how that works through UKG, and then we'll schedule a closed session at the end of the meeting next week.
I did not get that.
Is the, yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Okay. Then
Unless you put it somewhere other
It's
than
good.
to my email.
Good to bring it up.
I'm trying to think, did I get some, I know you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what
Yeah.
it was.
I will have her send that out all directly to you all again. It may be one of those issues where we use the system to deliver the message, and the system probably has you all at the old email address.
Yep.
So I will,
And Jamie, I'm not getting the links either for, you know how you send the links out for the media, the packets? Or are you not doing that anymore?
we are.
Ever since they updated the computer, I haven't gotten them.
Okay, we'll check iCompass again.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
I still get them.
I think I get them in the spam filter thing, but then I go on my computer and it says to release them to do whatever, but there's none of those buttons or whatever to do.
Trust the email? Well,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
it releases and some not, but I've been checking my spam folder and they're not even in there.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, work through it one by one, because there's something.
And
Eventually
some of
they'll get
these
it
I've
figured out.
released, I gotta talk to IT, cause like NACO, I've released that over and over and over, and they still all go to my spam.
NACO does send things from a lot of different mail servers.
Oh,
So they
you got
come
to-
from a lot of different addresses, and you have to add them all.
Yeah.
Okay,
But-
I try just to add the ones where I'm subcommittee, cause otherwise.
But you should be, you should only have to do it once per alias.
Okay,
AMC District 2 is June 3rd at Beltrami County at 8. And I think that's it. Ted and I are going to the Fardin Township, that meeting tonight. And at 10 o'clock this morning, we have our audit exit with Dave and Ted and Marie and the state audit team. So we'll be able to complete the 2024 audit, move on, and share with you the results of that. That would be all I have.
And you and I have the criminal justice workshop at noon.
Okay, and then the other item, I got an email this morning, or yesterday morning, from Krista Knudsen, that is seeking a little bit of help from us specifically. I would assume other commissioners in her district too. But she would like us to reach out to the DFL leadership and the importance of the AMC stated goal of regarding the African American Families and Reducing Disparities in Child Welfare System Act. AMC is deeply concerned about this too, that there's no clarity, readiness, oversight, implementation standards, and funding structure associated with this program, yet it's set to pass. And it could be quite expensive for counties.
and if I could add, human Human Services Department to put stuff on an Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. So she's asking specifically for us to reach out to the Democratic leadership and bring up a few bullet points. Number one, a delay in implementation until counties, courts, and agencies can fully access operational impacts and constitutional concerns. The other bullet is repeal or substantial revision of the legislation if legal and equity concerns cannot be resolved, and full and substantial state funding to ensure counties are not forced to absorb additional costs or reduce other critical child protection services. So my suggestion, next, as there's only a week left in the session, would be that we just get consensus from the board to send an email supporting those bullet points from the county.
I would,
DFL leadership.
Mr. Chair, I would also note that AMC is hosting a Counties on the Hill on Thursday this week, where they are, they're iterating the same key messages from you. Provide a roadmap for successful implementation of MAFPA. That act has passed. It's intended to go into effect January 1, 2027. So all of these concerns are the same concerns. And they're asking county staff to register to show up at AMC for a briefing at 10:30 and go to the Hill to deliver these messages in person. I don't know if any of you are in a position to want to go. I'm gonna be in St. Paul at AMC on Friday for my MACA group. I could go on Thursday and take this letter and be a part of that group, if that were your intention. My current plan is to drive down, leave at 4:30 in the morning, get to an 8 o'clock meeting and turn around when it's done. But because of the timing of this, there's no reason that I couldn't go if one or more of you weren't interested in going and showing up, and that way I could take, if you decide to send this letter, I could hand it right off. We could send it and hand it off.
I'm not available, I'm traveling.
I'm not available on Thursday either.
My only concern was,
21st?
Thursday, 14th.
Thursday, oh, 14th.
Yep.
Oh, no,
I
I
think
can't.
if we put a letter together, we should still email it to the DFLH, because you may not have
Yep, might not
contact
see,
with them.
might not see every one of them, but they are, last year, they put together, and I think they got 36 people to show up for this last week. And to talk to people in the hallways, to sit in on some of the sessions and just spend the day to let them know that counties are not, are not done, talking about these items. And that last year had a significant impact on what ended up happening at the end of the legislation. So I think the more people that are there, the better. And I'm just saying, because I'm gonna be there Friday, I could go Thursday and.
I just think this is a case, where we're asking for support from our legislators all the time, and now she's directly asking us for a little support back the other way. We really need to give it, especially if you're aligned
Absolutely.
with what she's asking. So I would support, and if you guys will, consensus to Jeff to draft a letter, and then if he's attending to, bring that with him and share it with as many. She doesn't seem to be concerned about the Republican caucus at all, but the DFL leadership needs to hear the message, because we don't have representatives except Clay County, a few spattered here and there.
So her request is to send this letter to Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, Representative Stevenson, and Senator Aaron Murphy,
Yep.
based on this. So if your direction is to draft that letter, I would draft that letter, have Commissioner De La Hunt review that, send that, and then
Follow up.
bring that with on Thursday if I go representing the county for that.
And then Jeff, note that she wants to be CC'd too,
Yep.
so please.
Yep.
Yeah.
This, I like when people write instructions very clearly.
Yep.
It'd be hard to get this one wrong if you said, this is what we want to do, so.
This has been a concern ever since this came up, their timeline and their lack of provision before they passed it. So we just have to keep fighting, because this is gonna cost taxpayers millions of dollars across the state if it's unfunded, and it's not ready because Human Services isn't ready to implement.
And really, most rural counties already meet the requirements.
Yes.
So you already meet the requirements, but yet they're gonna pile on more things you have to do when you really don't need to be doing it.
Even Hennepin and Ramsey that are test counties for this and have had additional funding to run the test to try to determine that they can meet this, are saying that they have not completed the tests. They can't do this yet. So this is one time when 87 of 87 counties are saying the same thing to the legislature, that we're not ready to turn this on. This is gonna cost money that it doesn't need to cost because we're not at the point where we can demonstrate that we're providing this.
It might carry a little bit of clout that even the metro counties are saying.
It has to. I think everybody's gonna be there. That was the last update I heard on that, is that Hennepin and Ramsey, who have been running the trials for this, are asking at the very least for more time before the standards are enforced. And they're asking for funding to continue their trial period.
I
Right,
like it
so-
that you put in there also constitutional concerns.
Yep.
I mean, you gotta make sure that they're not benefiting one group of people at the expense of another.
So, it's consensus of the board to have Jeff do that? Yep.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
Then
I
just
will-
one other thing legislative too. I've seen a few ramblings, in the press basically that, I think it was the House that passed the bill that aligns, Medicare, Medicaid services with the Fed requirements now. And they did get some bipartisan support, so sounds like there's some positive movement. Because if they don't meet the requirements that the Fed spelled out in HR 1, we're not gonna get funding. So I think some have finally figured out that we don't have a lot of choice here. We have to align with it, or there's gonna be significant financial impacts. So it passed one chamber anyhow. Hopefully it gets past the Senate.
So this was the email that came from AMC last night about 5:30, and the 3 bullet points, but the third one is specifically the one that Representative Knudsen asked us to draft a letter regarding. But I believe Hubbard County supports all 3 of these items. Property tax burden is becoming a challenge. And cost shifts relative to SNAP and Medicaid programs are also they're only gonna add to the local property tax burden. Because if things go the way they are going, that cost is gonna be passed directly on to us.
Yep.
So that was the email that they had out.
All right, anybody have anything else?
Just a quick comment, we were talking about the second, but the families, the MAFPA. But then, I also see that, I've had a fair amount of comments that the Sick and Safe Time program isn't really working the way it was intended. It's being flooded with requests for time, and, the organization in charge of monitoring, implementing, and approving things is way behind. People aren't getting phone calls back when they say, somebody will call you back tomorrow. Well, it's a week later and they still haven't got a phone call back. So the program was implemented with good intentions, but they just were not prepared, not at all. And it's kind of, people rely on the income, and it's kind of up in the air. There's others that have been sent checks, but they're incorrect checks. Well, I don't dare cash them, because then they'll say, hey, I want my money back, and then it comes in a smaller check or bigger check, whatever, it's just,
First you have to pass a bill before you know what's in it.
yeah, it's a very good system for what it was intended, but it's just the implementation has been kind of a mess. So,
I'm surprised they didn't, collect the tax revenue for a year and a half before implementation, so they actually had a pool of money to work with. I mean, yeah, that seems kind of crazy because you knew you were gonna get hit right away with what money?
Yeah. One of the other things that I just want to comment on is, I've heard some disappointment along with the arrest of the individual from the Nevis area about, fraud, I guess you would call it, but I really think the state needs to go in and look at their program guidelines for all these things, for Medicaid, Medicare, all of those things, you know, the asset tests, well, you know, one group, assets don't count, the next time they do count. I think there's a lot of people that are maybe utilizing the system that could well pay for it on their own if they were willing to sacrifice their assets and be forced to do that, because why do we want to pay for them to do or to have a service when they could, if they take money out of a IRA or something, or and pay for it themselves, or be forced to sell an asset if they're going to be on the benefit system. So I just think an overall look at that at the state and then probably the federal level as well. I'm not quite sure how to approach it yet.
Well, that's part of it.
Because it's a huge.
Yeah, that's part of the HR one thing,
Yeah.
was to
Yeah, to
drill
try
in
to
on
clean some of it
eligibility
up.
requirements,
Yeah.
and the states didn't want to lose the funding, they had to
Yeah.
align with those requirements.
Yeah. So hopefully,
Yeah, across the board.
Yeah.
You're right, even just a statewide program, they really need to look closer and scrutinize eligibility requirements, and then how they're verifying all these things better.
and perhaps it
We
needs to
can't have
be
this happen again.
a policy review, you know, all right, let's break out these policies and let's modernize them,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever, because it seems like some of those are fairly old and could be updated. Then again, you run the risk of,
And conflicting with one another.
yeah, but then again, you run the risk of it getting worse. So, all right, anyway, I'm done.
Anything else? Otherwise, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Is